So apparently the CIA has been trying to curb the U.S. intelligence community and even trying to curb the Brits, saying Hamza's not alive, don't talk about Hamza, and basically the Brits are like, screw you. So the Syria push is the restoration of the caliphate. The Mali push is the restoration of the caliphate.
Al-Qaeda 2.0, the upcoming attack on the United States and Europe unveiled. Let's move into that.
Yeah, I mean, since I was on the last time, the Western press finally broke he's alive. The interesting part is the U.S. still won't print it. The U.S. press won't. But what happened is, interestingly, British intel leaked it to their press.
Really?
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing, they did it because they were upset that, so apparently the CIA has been trying to curb the U.S. intelligence community and even trying to curb the Brits, saying Hamza's not alive, don't talk about Hamza, and basically the Brits are like, screw you, and they put it out in the press. The funny part is the U.S. press still didn't pick it up, so the U.S. press still went to the CIA, and CIA is like, don't print it. So it went, all over the world. It was all over in India, all over in Africa, and it didn't print here.
Hold on. Why does the CIA not want that out?
Because they don't believe Hamza bin Laden's alive.
Excuse me?
I know.
How so?
He's like running Al-Qaeda. He's hosting meetings like every week.
Why do they really not believe that? Or
I think
is this just to cover their tracks?
I think they really don't believe it, but then they've put no effort in the last couple of years to be like, well, we should run it down and maybe reverse our assessment. And remember, the same thing happened after Benghazi, right? We knew Al-Qaeda was there in real time. And then they all went down some weird fake protest thing. But then CIA never changed their assessments when they knew Al-Qaeda was on the compound, right? So sometimes it's almost impossible to get the CIA to reverse an assessment.
So for those that don't know, Hamza bin Laden is he's basically the catalyst here. He is marrying into all these terrorist networks. We discussed this on your previous interview, but just to summarize it, he is kind of uniting them. The common goal is to come to the West, terrorize the West. How is this guy different than his father, Osama?
Yeah, Hamza's a problem. So it's really interesting. So Osama bin Laden, first off, Hamza really believes in being kind of undercover and covert. Like, he doesn't want to really go out there and be on TV or even do like the audio recordings. Like, he wants to stay under the radar, hidden. He wants you to not even like know he's running things. So he wants a hidden hand in everything. So I told you they're involved in October 7th. Al-Qaeda is never going to claim responsibility for it. Al-Qaeda is not going to claim responsibility for these embassy attacks. And they have a plan for that, I'll tell you. They're not going to claim responsibility for the Europe attacks. And they're definitely not going to claim responsibility for the U.S. homeland attack. Very different, right, than his father. The other thing is his father...
Hold on. Why are they not claiming responsibility?
Because they want to keep their safe havens intact, and they don't actually care if you know it was Al-Qaeda. They just want to take it to us, right?
Oh, shit.
It does not matter if it's ISIS, if it's HTS, if it's Hamas. They're all one, right? They're all an Islamic army. And nobody's taking this Islamic army concept seriously, but Hamza views all the terrorist groups in the world now under his Islamic army, and that's the way he views them. And he's almost like Iranian Quds Force, where he's like, okay, this is my proxy here, this is my proxy here, this is my proxy here. Like, he's planning an attack in Lebanon against some sort of U.S. interests, right? It's an Al-Qaeda Hezbollah plot. But when it occurs, only Hezbollah is going to take responsibility. You won't even know Al-Qaeda is involved in it. Just like Giuliani's Blitzkrieg. Al-Qaeda has supported that, right? They gave him 10,000 fighters, right? Taliban gave him camps in Afghanistan. Are you hearing anything about the Taliban and Al-Qaeda right now when they're talking about Syria?
No.
Zero. Did you hear their names come up at all for October 7th?
No.
Yeah. Hamza's killing it. So Hamza now wants to do completely covert action and let everything fall under this Islamic army. And the really interesting thing is his father was incredibly patient, right? Remember, everybody knows it took him 5 years to prove 9/11. And Osama bin Laden was like, hey, we can create the caliphate. I'm okay if it takes 1,000 years. Hamza wants to do everything in his lifetime. He wants the Islamic caliphate to be created in his lifetime. He wants to bring all of his father's goals, to fruition. And one of them was take it to America, right, on U.S. soil, make them feel the war zones at home. And Hamza takes that very serious. And that's why he has gone full force on this plot. The interesting part is Hamza will approve a plot in one meeting. Right, bring it in, brief this plan you have for the embassy. Yep, I'm good. So he moves a lot faster. And actually, of all things, the IRGC and Iran have complained. And they're even, when they work with Al-Qaeda, they're like, we want Saif al-Adil. He's more calm, cool, collected. Like, we trust him more. We don't think he's going to cause a big ruckus. But they're like, Hamza's a loose cannon. He's running at full speed. We don't know how to control him. So it's almost an interesting thing. So it's funny, right? Other governments are seeing this, and our government won't even talk about him being alive, and he's running fast against us.
Can you go what are his goals? So hold on, I got a lot of questions. So if we have all these networks, we have all these terrorism networks. Is Hamza literally the number one guy?
So Hamza is the number one guy of what is now called the Islamic Army, okay?
Okay.
So the Islamic Army is Sunni Shia. It is his father's vision. Hamza's now put it to reality in the last 2 years. And it basically pulls in every group. It's Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, whoever will agree to it. Obviously, there's a lot of negotiations going on to get people into this. This isn't easy, right? Like, they're constantly giving up things to get people to join in. So he's been very successful. They've now trained about 120,000 people under this Islamic Army umbrella. So these new recruits are coming in. They're not basically training in an ISIS camp or an Al-Qaeda camp. They are, but they're coming out of it as Islamic Army. So when they're doing deployments to Syria, to Somalia, to Mali, these fighters are viewing themselves as Islamic Army. And the point of that is, if they get detained, they're not going to say Al-Qaeda, right? So Hamza set this up. And then he took one of his father's old bodyguards, Hamza al-Ghamdi, his name is, and put him in charge. So Hamza al-Ghamdi is actually basically the commander of the Islamic Army. Maybe like a month ago, FBI upped his reward. So this is funny. So Hamza al-Ghamdi is worth $5 million. Hamza bin Laden, who's in charge of Hamza al-Ghamdi and appointed him, he's on the wanted list for $1 million. So we don't even have our priorities right of who's in charge, who the enemy is, what they're involved in. So there's the whole Islamic Army piece, okay? Now, under the Islamic Army falls the original goals of Osama bin Laden, right? One is to push the U.S. out of the Middle East. That's the wave of attacks that had the Israel attack, right? It's going to be the wave of attacks or the embassy attacks, right? Because it's to push us out of embassies in the Middle East, like they're targeting U.S. Embassy Baghdad, for example, right? Makes perfect sense. And then there is the restoration of the caliphate. So the Syria push is the restoration of the caliphate. The Mali push is the restoration of the caliphate. So he's just doing his father's old goals, but faster, and he's using all the other terrorist groups to make it happen. It's not going to be Al-Qaeda reaching these goals. It's going to be Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whomever. And the way that they're dealing with it is when they're sitting down making these agreements. So when they sat down and talked about Syria and Iraq, okay? Al-Qaeda now has given up the thought of, I want to own territory. Al-Qaeda's thought, I want to be the governments, right? Or I want my allies to be the government. So they more want a political power. So they sat down with ISIS and says, ISIS, if you want to run certain parts of Syria, you want to run certain parts of Iraq, and they've had the same discussion with IRGC, like, we're fine with that. Like, let's come to agreement on what that looks like. So there's some really interesting partnerships going on when you'd say, oh, no, they're against each other. It's like, no, they're finding ways to compromise because they all want the same things in a different way.
You had mentioned they have a couple of different goals, well, a handful of goals. You mentioned Europe, you mentioned Israel, I believe, you mentioned the U.S. Where are all the targets and what are the goals?
So
let's leave the U.S. for last.
Sure. So if you talk about Israel, obviously there was the big Hamas attack, and then they actually have a couple other waves of attacks. I know one of them, and I shared it. I'll probably get yelled at for sharing that one too. And then they want to do against Israel what they do with us, like attack the embassies. Okay, so that's the Israel piece. And then they want to do attacks on Europe. But the interesting part is, even their Europe attacks, they're still leaning towards, hey, when we go attack Norway or whomever, we want to attack the U.S. embassy there. So we're still almost the target, even though they want to do the attack in that country. And then the last piece is they want this October 7th style attack in multiple places in Europe and then in the U.S. And that's the one that Scott talked to you about that we had, in the AQ 2.0 book. But I realized he didn't give it to you when he was here. So I'm giving you the AQ 2.0 book. But that's really interesting. So we gave
You worked on this.
I gave a little bit of our investigation to it. So this was put together by a European retired intelligence officer. And what he did is he reached out to his huge community from working his entire career and said, what do you have on this? What do you have on this? What do you have on this? And he compiled a bunch of people's investigations into this attack. So this is the best thing you can get open source.
Al-Qaeda 2.0, the upcoming attack on the United States and Europe unveiled.
So Boone and I focus on the U.S. homeland piece of this attack, but people who contributed to the book focus on the Europe piece, right? Because they're European.
Interesting. Could you get me connected?
Yeah, I'll put you in touch.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, since we're giving gifts, I was going to wait till later, but I got you a gift too, Sarah.
Oh,
you heard about the unplugged
Of course, yeah,
phone?
I use the app, so I'm kind of excited I can upgrade to the phone.
There you go. So, yeah, developed by Eric Prince and his team, one of the dev guys on there.
Good.
Was
I'm
on
going
the
to
dev team of
text Eric
Pegasus.
Prince first from it, because that would be fun. And he'll be
good.
like, what crap is she asking me for now?
But
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. For those listening, that's a great way to kind of keep your data safe from big tech.
Perfect.
And like Facebook, Google,
Facebook. I don't have a
Amazon,
Facebook account right now.
all
I'm
this stuff.
fine. They took it down.
But yeah, so where has Hamza bin Laden been all these years?
So we basically found out where he was in 2022, and that's when he was in Kandahar, right? We learned that prior to that, he was in Waziristan, Pakistan, but really the chunk of the time he was in Iran. The thing is, when Qasem Soleimani was killed in early 2020, he was like, I'm not sure Iran can keep me safe if they couldn't keep Soleimani safe. And so he left Iran at that time and went to Pakistan. And so then he stayed in Pakistan until Kabul fell. And then he went into Afghanistan.
In that report that you had mentioned that the British intelligence leaked to the press, where is that? Can we find that and overlay it right now?
Well, yeah, it's basically, it then was turned into an article. So it just says he's now the head of Al-Qaeda. He's planning operations against the West, these large-scale attacks. So yeah, I think it first was in like the Mirror or the Sun, but then a ton of news articles picked up the same thing.
So it's out there.
Yeah, it's out there.
All over UK media.
Yeah, if you just put Hamza bin Laden live, it'll come up.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.